So first of all, let me welcome you to our Special Educational Gerontology Special Interest Group, our inaugural session. My name is Natalia Balesnikova. I'm here on behalf of co-chairs of the Special Interest Group, John Miles, Marian Markowski, and Yitka Tsitkova, who's here too. Hi, Yitka. So I'm just going to briefly let you know about our interest section. We're broadly working on thinking through aging and educational development, age-related changes in learning engagements, effective learning strategies for aging populations, culturally diverse educational initiatives for seniors. We theorize and develop practices for benefits of intergenerational learning, also thinking about seniors' involvement in educational policy development, and also broadly policy and economic issues in educational gerontology. And within BSG, we are trying to create a network here. So today is our first theory talk, and in November, we'll have our first practitioner coffee hour chat, which will be focusing on practitioners sharing their thinking about their work and also sharing best practices. And you might have seen that BSG has issued a preliminary call for proposals. So we are thinking about doing a cross-SIG symposium at BSG next year. So if any of you are interested in proposing some sort of a symposium that merges different SIGs together, please let us know. And here is a QR code to join our educational gerontology interest section. So we're very happy that you're here. All right. So now I'm going to pass it on to Yitka, who's going to very briefly introduce our speakers.
Thank you so much, Natalia. It's all working beautifully. It's very nice to see everyone who joined today. It is my great pleasure to introduce Inma and Lesley. Inma and Lesley are fantastic colleagues from the Open University, and they are dedicated researchers and dedicated their life to lifelong learning in different ways. So I will let Inma and Lesley tell you much more about themselves, but I am really deeply grateful for Inma and Lesley to take the time to come to talk to us and start us off with our seminar series. So thank you so much for being here. It's an utmost pleasure. Please take the floor and tell us more.
Thank you, Yitka. I'm going to, let me see if I can start sharing my screen. Let me do this presentation. You should be looking at the screen now. Can you see it well? Yeah, everyone? Yep. Okay, excellent. So my name is Inma Alvarez. I am the Director of Postgraduate Research Studies in the Faculty of Wellbeing, Education and Language Studies. And I've been working with doctoral researchers in the almost last decade, directing programs and looking after their well-being and their academic journeys. And here I am with Lesley. Lesley, do you want to say something about you?
Yeah, thanks, Inma. Okay, so I'm Lesley Boyd, everyone. I had the fortune of being looked after by Inma in the later stages of my PhD, which I've relatively recently completed in the last couple of years. Whether I should or not, I don't make a secret of my age. I'm now 62, so I very much did it in later life. And then the nice thing is I walked across the stage with my son for the Open University graduation in Milton Keynes Theatre last year. And he just finished his computing degree as a young 20-year-old. So that's just a tiny bit about my background, and we're going to take you through what the things are to consider if you're thinking about this, what some of the sort of policy thoughts might be, and then we've got an interesting project that we're launching together which we're going to share with you at the end. So that's kind of a bit of a pen picture about what to expect.
Thank you, Lesley. So yeah, the talk I'm not going to go into the detail of all the things that we're going to talk about because just Lesley did the summary, but basically, yeah, talking about lifelong learning, motivations for doing doctorate, the things you need to consider, and this new project we have in hand. We would like to try to make this session interactive if we can, so we may be provoking you with some questions and reflection points, and in the end, we hope to be have a little discussion with you as well. We are going to talk about what we call the ultimate academic challenge, which is doing a doctorate, because in formal education, in higher education, there's nothing higher than studying for a doctorate. After you study doctorate, you have studied as high as you can. So just to give you here for you, those of you who are not familiar with how it is built in the education system, but you have the level 6, what we call undergraduate degree. Then we have the master's, what we call level 7, and then level 8 is the doctoral degree. And we are going to focus on postgraduate studies at doctoral level, which is not mostly research focused rather than teaching. And this is the picture for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and it's pretty similar across the world, but the levels may be called differently. So when we look at the latest data we have from the OU, which is a few years ago, we see that 14% of the postgraduates in that block of master's and doctoral students, we have 14% who are over 55 years old. And this information caught our attention and say, well, this is something interesting to look at. Who are these people and why are they studying at postgraduate level at this later stage in their lives? When we look at the data, official data from advanced higher education, this is from last year information, they present a picture where there is an increasing, since 2016, there was a dip, but then there's again an increasing number of what they call mature students enrolling in higher education. This is at all levels, undergraduate and postgraduate level. But we can see that, what they classify as mature population is increasing. So again, we wanted to look more at this information, and we ask ourselves what counts as mature age in higher education. So I'd like you to think for a moment, what do you think our system, our educational system, counts as mature age? Any guesses from anyone?
30.
30.
We have 25 in the chat.
25, okay.
I would say 25 too.
Okay. So you are very close to the truth, which is we went through a few countries. We don't have information from most countries, but we went to the definitions of different countries. And we found in the UK, the age is 21 or over. That's considered mature. And for advanced HE, that's for the Office for Students, and for advanced HE is over 22. So top age category, and the range of mature students is from 22 to 36, and the rest is not measured. In Australia, you can see the actual classification of mature students is much higher. So it's 35 to 64. That's how they classify it. And in the USA is from 25. So as you can see, one of the issues we found is that when you read the research on mature students, you really need to look into the detail on how they are defined, because the differences in different contexts. Lesley and I were actually interested in those who are 55 plus, and yeah, who are that lot, and actually we didn't find much information. So we had another question. So from all the disciplines that are taught at higher education, what discipline do you think attracts more mature age students? Any guesses?
Humanities, like literature.
That's a good guess.
We have history in the chat.
History, okay.
Health and
So,
self-care, also from the
okay.
chat.
Right. Well, interestingly, there's a guess, again, there's not much information about this, but a guess from one study we found, they said that education, PhD graduates are older. And the guess here, the hypothesis is because they tend to go into, teaching, and once they're in their teaching career, they have these research puzzles and they start. So basically they say their own educational career delays the entrance onto doctoral research. We haven't, as I said, found any more information about this, and this is something we would like to look into, exactly what's happening and what are the ages of in different disciplines, what are the ages of the doctoral researchers. Now, just want to introduce you one of our wonderful mature researchers. Alan Meredith won one of our prizes at the Open University. He did a professional doctorate in education on primary school governors in a deprived South Wales community. And when he won the prize, in his speech, he said, "My experience shows it's never too late." So we wanted to, and there's a link there to his to the prize-winning article he wrote. So just to give you a sense that we encounter some of these wonderful graduates. Lesley's one, and this is why she's here. Lesley, one of them. So it's just wonderful to see, and we are curious about why are they studying. So what does a doctoral degree entails? And I have to say, apologies if you know this already, but Lesley and I thought it would be good just to summarize in a couple of slides what it means to study doctorate. So the usual output for a doctorate is a thesis. This is a photograph of some of our old theses that were bound in paper, but nowadays we have online theses, digital, available for anyone to have a look at them. But basically, that's the main output. You write a thesis, a piece of academic work. And then we have an examination. And here you can see Lesley at the day of her Viva examination with her examiners. At the Open University, we have a chair and one internal, one external examiner questioning about the research you've done. And it's quite an intimate meeting. In other countries, in other contexts, Vivas vary a lot. Some events are public. Just to say very quickly, at the Open University, and this is pretty much similar across the sector, we all doctoral researchers have supervisors who are academics, accompany them in their journey, meeting regularly with them to discuss their projects. We have a third-party monitor who is someone who looks after pastoral care, advice on different aspects of the studies. And then we have a doctoral training program where they develop their research skills, a number of faculties events, writing support, academic writing is very specialized writing. So we offer that specialist support for them. A world-class library. So we have electronic and physical collections for students to study, social events, we have competitions, we have common rooms, and for some of them, we have a funding allowance so they can go to conferences and they can do field work overseas. So that's a very quickly summary of what it means to study at this higher level 8 degree. So I think I'm going to hand over now to Lesley, who is going to explain a little bit about motivations. Lesley, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Inma. Thanks. So with all of that set out before you in terms of what you could expect if you're studying a PhD, then why would you actually do it? Why would
Sorry,
you do
Lesley, your
Yeah.
noise is a bit
Is is
strange.
the microphone not correct?
I
How's
think
it doing now?
that's much better. Thank you.
Is it much better now? Are we okay? All right. Do flag it up, please, if something goes wrong again. I'm not quite sure what that is. Okay, so why would you think about doing this later in life then? And the next question is, am I able to advance the slides as we were discussing? Oh yes, it's just taking a little bit of time. It's taking a little bit of time to respond. So again, we've been searching in the literature as well, and there is very limited literature about this, but interestingly, quite a lot coming out from Australia and that area. So possibly unsurprisingly, there was one study that just suggested there's a whole mixture of personal and interpersonal and professional motives for embarking on doctoral studies, depending on the individual. But a really key one, which we love, and I'm going to show you on the next slide, is also from Australia. Thank you. And this is a lady who spent her entire life being a nurse and a nurse educator, and then also a parent of a child with a congenital bowel disorder. So she spent her entire life doing that, and then wanted to convert her professional experiences in how to treat congenital bowel disorders, and also how to change attitudes in the medical profession. So she saw this as something which came at the end of her career in order to transfer and make sense of all of her professional experiences and all of her parental experiences and all of her support of other people experiences, to underpin that with something that's transferable and shareable with academic rigor to others. So this is a really good example of why someone would do it in later life. And this lady, as it says at the top, did it at 70 years old. Okay, if anybody, no, okay, my advance is working all right at the moment, so let's see what happens next. So my motivations were very much along that line, really, which is to make a lasting contribution. So helping with societal challenge. We've got such a lot of profound societal challenges in our world nowadays, haven't we? So you're wanting to make that lasting contribution that is going to sit and possibly make impact in your life, but maybe even make impact beyond the end of your life. And you're also very much wanting to underpin your accumulated professional practice with academic rigor, so that you can make something that's rigorously documented and argued and then put out in the literature base so that other people can build on it. You're also very keen about building later life intellectual and social connections, and these are the part of the aging well pillars, which Yitka's involved in building up those cognitive and social connections later on life. And for me, I've always been a bit independent. I'm not really a terribly good rule follower, but it's even more enabled me to live on my own terms and by my own values in my later life, so I can look forward to what's coming in my 60s and 70s and be able to shape it for myself and add to a portfolio of what I'm doing. So I'm not setting out on a full-blown academic career. It's just not feasible at this age, but I am adding it to a portfolio of what I'm doing, and then achieving this sense of self-actualization. So towards the end, we'll talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've ever heard of that, and this whole business of self-actualizing at the top of the pyramid. Okay, so that's just a few of my motivations. She's waiting for the advance to respond again.
I'll move it forward. There's still a bit of
a
crackly noise.
If I say next slide, Inma, then perhaps you could do it for me, because I'll
do it for you. Is everyone hearing Lesley well? There's a bit of a crackling noise at my end.
Are you hearing me okay, everyone?
I
Absolutely
can
fine.
hear you
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, all good, all good.
Lovely, thank you. I do have, this is a joke. I do have my son's posh gaming microphone with me. You're going to see him a bit later, so it's supposed to be really good sound. Let's see. So question 4 then, if you are mature, rather than doing this as a bright young 20-year-old, how is that actually going to help you? Do you want to do the next slide, Inma? Right. So again, we found a couple of pretty recent studies here, and it's really what I've been talking about. You're basing it on your life experience, your understanding of the field, and you've got your repertoire of skills that you're already sitting on. So you're already articulate about those, and you can be a bit more self-sufficient than a younger person. And this does help you in your relationship with your supervisors, who may have their own academic interests and may want to steer you in a certain direction. And you actually want to be clear about the specific problem is that you're wanting to address. So this can help you when you're later in life. Shall we move on, Inma? Thanks. All right. So what are things to consider then? Let's keep going. What are the things you need to consider? These are the sorts of things, if you're thinking about doing this, it's aimed to walk in the park, everybody. This is a serious job that you're taking on later in life. If it's full time, you're doing it 37 hours a week at least for 3 to 4 years. If it's part-time, you're doing it half of those hours for 4 to 8 years. You've got to think about how you're going to be funded and whether you're actually able to get some form of sponsorship, or whether you're going to get a government doctoral loan. They do them just the same as student loans nowadays, as long as you are 60 or below on the first day of your study. Okay. You have to think about all your family and friends and your relationships and who you have to care for. If you've got existing health issues, if you've still got a job on the go, and how is that going to marry up with what you're trying to do in the research side, and life events and the curveballs that life always throws at you. You always have to factor those in, even though you don't know what they're going to be at the beginning, but they sure will happen. They certainly do. So let's go on to the next one then, Inma. This is just my little diagram. I love drawing diagrams, everyone. So I did a whole load of diagrams in my thesis because I find it creative and interesting. So that's just a little thing just for people to look at things in a different way. But here you are, you've got to think about all your personal challenges, time, money, family relationships, and then down there, mental health and sustaining a tenacious outlook throughout this whole long challenge is a really serious issue, because people are going to try and knock you off your perch as well. They really do that. You know, this is academia, and at the end of it all, you have to defend your thesis in a viva. So you have to be pretty tenacious about it. Let's go to the next one, Inma. Thank you. So academic challenges, these are the sorts of things that you're going to need to look at. First of all, you've got to learn how to pull a proposal together, which is going to interest some supervisors and be able to allocate some supervisors who are interested enough in your research topic. And then it can be iterative, but you have to identify your research questions, like rigorously. What is it exactly that you're investigating? You have to learn how to construct and structure a sustained written argument, which you then present beautifully and perfectly over 100,000 words in a thesis. You have to learn all about different research philosophies and different ways of looking at reality and how knowledge is constructed. And you have to make your positionality, it's called positionality, or your choice amongst all the methodologies. You have to get to grips with using all this lovely new technology that surrounds us. It's everywhere for all different parts of the research process now. You have to be solid, or learn how to be solid on presenting and defending your work against critique. And there's lots of debate and discussion about how friendly or constructive or destructive that can be in academia. But you certainly have to learn how to do it. but this does help you when you're more mature. You need to learn about managing your supervisor relationships, because at the end you're the world expert in your little piece of knowledge that you're contributing. So you know more than your supervisors at the end, and you need to kind of manage that relationship as you're going along. Okay, Inma, thanks very much. Let's go. So is it worth it then? Is it worth it in the end? We mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs before. This is just my lovely colourful diagram that I found off the internet. And I wrote about it in midway through my PhD in 2019. I'm sure you've all seen this before, but it just starts out with physiological needs right at the very bottom. So it's lovely hierarchy of what you need to do, and then go all the way up to the top to the lovely purple apex there, where you're achieving what you actually wanted to in your life and making your contribution. But it does tend to go, as it says on the left there, it does tend to grow across all the levels, because you do need to remember or have someone to do it for you, to feed yourself while you're writing up this 100,000 word thesis. Keep going on the sleep, keep going with keeping the house going and all your different commitments. So you do go right from the very bottom of the pyramid right to the very top. So that does make it a pretty life-changing experience. It really does. It really does. So we'll go on to the next one then. Is it really worth it to do all of this? Can Inma go to the next one for us? And then so we just included this because this is just trying to transmit the idea about what it feels like when you actually do it. So are you going to click on the button, Inma, or shall I? There, Inma's done it. Hopefully you'll hear it okay. Let's see. Can you hear this? Or is it? No, we haven't got any volume on it, have we? Is anybody getting any volume from that?
No volume, unfortunately.
Oh, what
I do
a
hear
shame.
it at my end. Yeah.
You do
There
hear
might be
it.
a button. There might be an option to share sound as well as picture when you're sharing a slide, but I can't remember exactly where that button is.
Okay, well, sorry about that, everyone, because there's an awful lot of whooping going on there. I'll improvise the sound for you. A lot of whooping going on, and that's myself and my son just walking across the stage, and then just depart at the end. And there's my lead supervisor, who's called Karina, on the end of the stage, and I give her a really big hug and walk up. Once you've completed a doctorate, you go up onto the stage to join with all the academics. So that's the sort of, I've done it moment at the end, which really does make it all worth it and all worthwhile, although it can push you to the limits, guys. This is absolutely true. So the project that we've got going next, then, if you want to go on to the next one, it's called an OU Open Societal Challenge, where the OU are looking to collaborate with other organisations and other funders for key societal challenges that are facing us at the moment. And so I've put one based on my own experiences, but also looking around, and we've started the work now between Inma and myself on supporting later life research career trajectories, because you've just gone and spent maybe your 50s or even your 60s doing this PhD, and then you want to make the most of it, but it actually doesn't fit in that easily, if at all, into any traditional academic career, or such terms that are around in academia as early career researcher, where the whole of academia is really designed on a pyramid and starting at the beginning. So what you're wanting to look at is much more diverse research careers, not just for age, but actually this one is focusing on age. And then what we're going to do is develop some of the research that I did in my PhD, which is using learning technology to connect together lots of different stakeholders and participants who are geographically separated, fragmented all over the place, to come together, to bind them together in a collaborative action research process and decide if there's any supporting actions that we can take to help later life completers make the most of the research that they've done and move on towards successful research career trajectories in their later years. So that's what it's all about. Inma and I are going to a kick-off event about it very shortly in the OU. And that's going to, we've got to pull together a budget to go from something called Initiate, which is where it is now, to the build stage where we're building a budget. And we're looking around for collaborators. We've already got one possible, another institution, and securing and looking for funding to take this whole project off. And it sort of interfaces into national and global policy issues about making the most of the later life workforce, encouraging older people back into work, the cognitive and social benefits and health benefits of doing something really challenging and cognitively stimulating later in life. So all of those, you know, those different policy issues which extend across the entirety of the UK, all the 4 nations in the UK and globally, we're looking at interfacing with those. So that's the project that we're kicking off. Really interesting. We're really interested if any BSG members, especially this SIG, have got any thoughts or feedback or interesting ideas or contributions for that project. And then if you go on to the next slide, Inma, we're just thinking in questions and final reflections. If we go on again, here's some talking points just for us to throw out some questions. Has anybody already done a doctorate in the room? And what was your experience? Do you know anybody else who's doing it? Have you ever dreamt of doing one? What would you personally have to overcome? And what do you think about the idea of studying a doctoral degree later in life? And do you have any thoughts, you know? And it might be something that you need to think about and go away, and we can start to develop this as the beginning of a collaboration. I'm not sure, but you know, what do you think about the project? We've just painted a very brief vision of it, and we can go from there. So we're interested to know your thoughts and ideas. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lesley. Yeah, honestly, colleagues, we would like to hear from you, your thoughts, any answers to those questions.
Thank you, Inma. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen so we can see everybody in the room.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Great. I'm just going to remove your spotlight so that we can now have a little bit of more. Oh no, how do I remove your spotlight? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Hi, everybody. So yes, we welcome any comments, questions, suggestions, or reflections that this talk has inspired you to consider. Yeah, Marianne, please.
Hello, Inma and Lesley. Thank you very much for the talk. Really interesting. Yes, I have done my PhD. I was sort of end of my 30s, so not quite as late, but I would be certainly a mature student. I think this is really interesting that you're going to challenge the whole idea of early career researchers. I do agree that it's kind of, there is already a certain skew in that respect. And I think it would be really interesting to see what can be adapted or changed to make sure everybody starts on this journey. I also found doing a PhD is really just the beginning, and then afterwards the work you do it's a bit like a driver's license, basically. Once you have the driver's license and you start driving, and you actually experience you get only while you drive around, not during your PhD necessarily. Maybe it's different when you have extremely good supervision, but this was excellent for me to see, and again reminded me of all the experiences I had during my PhD journey, where it wasn't that clearly laid out as you just did in your talk of what to expect. And maybe it would have been very, very beneficial for me at the time if I had it in the same way. I didn't. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see where you take this next to. Are there already some ideas on what it would be that supports learners, more mature PhD candidates or finishers?
Yeah, we don't know at all yet in terms of outcomes or initiatives. What we want to do, and I'm going to do it, this is the plan, is to make a collaborative discussion stroke dialogue platform on something in the OU that we have called Open Learn Create. And you may possibly have heard of freely available Open Learn courses, but you can use that platform to sort of design your own, you can use it to design your own training courses or educational things, or you could use it using a discussion forum and etc., and including supporting data, etc. And then people can log into it. And then this is my kind of methodological idea, is to expand what I did in my PhD, which was purely inside the OU, and use it to connect together people who might be in different institutions to have an online technology-enabled collaborative action research conversation, okay, about what people's experiences are, what the literature says, what the supporting data says, and then to try and tease that out or analyse that out into possible issues that we're facing. And then in a sort of classic action research cycle, what might be the experimental actions that we could take, and then to try taking them, and then to collaboratively evaluate them and move on from there. So I did that as insider action research over 3 action research cycles for a live module situation in the OU. And now the next stage is to sort of take that on further for another challenging, fragmented problem, this time spreading over more than one institution. That's the idea.
Thank you, Lesley. Yeah. And if I can add as well to this point, that we are also very interested in challenging all the terminology around and the expectations of what, first of all, who is mature, who counts, but also, yeah, who is an early career researcher, all the definitions, everything is based on a model where someone does the undergraduate, does a master's, and does a PhD. That's and you end up in your early or late 20s with a doctorate. But we have noticed that's not necessarily the case, and we cannot ignore the population, the growing population, mature population in higher education.
Thank you. Joanna, please.
Hi, I'm a late lifer. I started at 58 and finished at 65. Unluckily for me, I finished straight into COVID. So any plans I had for trying to do anything else were just, immediately difficult to follow up. So that's several years ago now, and I guess I've lost a bit of ground on that. I do informal writing and bits of research locally, but it would be lovely if there was something more formal I could join in with. I'm not sure I'm in a place to initiate a project, but I might be able to join in something.
Fabulous. This is fabulous. And that's what we emphasize we're at the absolutely very early stages with this project, and we've got to pull it together, get some funding, get the site going on Open Learn Create, make sure it works, all this kind of thing. But then anybody who says, and Joanna, I get this so often, and it's so heartening as people say, oh wow, I wish, I really want to join in with that, and this is music to my ears and all that kind of thing. So anybody that says that to us, we love it, and we want to embrace as many people as feasible and who want to join in.
I mean, my subject area was older adults learning, so it just made me
Fabulous.
look at the methodology rather than the subject interest.
Yeah,
And
fabulous.
some of my colleagues are here. Hi, guys.
That actually you are one, matches what we said before, that education is one of the, you know, attracts
Yeah.
more mature learners than any other field. So that's, you are an example of that.
We would love to hear more about your research, Joanna. So drop us a note if you want for us to host a talk about your doctoral study, or maybe support your attendance at the BSG next year. We'll be very happy to do that.
Okay. Did anybody else have any other thoughts or questions?
I just want, oh, sorry, Marianne. you can.
I just wanted to add, and I'm looking for it at the moment, but I had already found, and it was initiated, I think, in possibly America, and I think there was one university in Dublin. They had kind of an accreditation to be all age friendly, and you could apply for that. And I had suggested it to our center lead at the time. So I'm trying to find at the moment the link, and had a particular name where I think they had a kind of a list of things they considered as making it more friendly for people of, you know, at least over 50 to study at that university. Did anyone else come across this? Then
there is something called the Age Friendly Universities Network, which the OU is considering joining. So it's kind of slowly growing. And that may possibly be what you were thinking of. It's an official network with a website and everything.
Possibly. I mean, the last time I looked in the UK, there was, I think, only one university that was in there.
Yeah, I think the OU would be
University of Stirling that is actually having one of the partly leading roles on this network. So it might be worth.
Right.
I'll have a look if I can find the contact, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
I have a question. Just thinking about your work, and I was also quite shocked to think of who's considered to be a mature PhD student. I'm attending an event next week on mature students in academia, and now I have a feeling that these are not going to be the mature students that I think. I'm starting to get a nagging feeling that maybe this won't be the you know, the people that I think are. But it also just makes me think of how incredibly ageist the system is, that doesn't even, that first of all considers people who are 25 to be mature, and then does not even consider people who are in their later life as students, doesn't even envision them as potential students. And as a supervisor of PhD students, I'm just also now thinking that a lot of the work that I read on how to be a good supervisor, it's all framed around, you know, nurturing the young minds, nurturing the young creativity. So I think it just made me think your experience and also your research just highlights how incredibly ageist these educational systems are. So that being said, what do you think, how do you think the systems need to change, or what are maybe some of the foundational reasons why these systems are set up to really focus on the younger learners, but also simultaneously somehow positioning them as mature? So maybe
if I can say from what the research we have read, my understanding is that it's a very traditional, old-fashioned way of looking at doing policy and looking at what's happening. So I think there are two incompatible situations. One is the theory and how universities define their policies and all that, and then the reality. So Lesley and I are interested in the actual reality, what's happening really, and how can we, in a way, communicate to institutions that the reality they are reflecting in the policies doesn't match the actual reality of their student body and their experiences. So we are trying to match reality with theory in a way. I think, Lesley, is that a fair explanation?
Yeah, but also as well, like from my direct personal experience, if you've just spent your 50s or a significant period of your life invested in this research, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be making the most of it and following that through in an equitable way with absolutely anybody else who's ever done a PhD. And you shouldn't be facing barriers or difficulties on progressing with your later life research that I do believe people face, including me.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And I also think that it's the more capitalist neoliberal framing of why people do these higher degrees. Because they prepare you for a different job, right? A job of being a professor, being a researcher, and that really ties into a lot of critique of colleagues who do research on retirement and aging workforce, where people would say like, oh, this is just a hobby for you because clearly you're in your 60s, you'll never, like, no university will hire you because aren't you supposed to be retiring at 65? And I think it really ties into this kind of ageist economic system that we have that only values productivity of the youth, and it doesn't value the life experience and the things that people are bringing to the table at different stages of life.
And then also that the whole idea of investment in, for example, postdoctoral fellowships, right? So they are very, very highly geared, in my experience, towards the ECR field, because your funding body is looking at investing for an entire career, of a younger person. So in the very highly competitive world of postdoc fellowships, then it's really heavy weather trying to get the immediate postdoc support that you need. And as I think it was Joanna said, forgive me, Joanna, I think it was you who said that if you're completed during COVID or just after COVID, then that has really complicated your trajectory as well, in all sorts of unspoken ways. And the thing is that this is all governed by assumptions. And if everybody assumes that ECR is the right way to look at things and assumes that the academic pipeline or sausage meat machine, whatever you want to call it, is the right way to go, whereas there's a whole series of different diverse and interesting ways to approach making the most of the research that you've done in order to make a really interesting societal contribution. So that's the flag we're waving, I guess.
Thank you, Lesley. Marianne, you have your hand up, please.
So I quickly want to say, I'm sorry, I will have to leave a little bit earlier. So when I disappear off screen, I just want to say thank you already for this really interesting discussion. And the other thought I wanted to share is, in terms of employment research and generally, when we look at retirement, we all talk now about phased retirement or, the model of having several careers in our lives. I think it's really time to pick up that conversation where we could look at what career fits well in the upper part of your life. And then I think the academic career might be a suitable one. And in that respect, I think the burden or the task or the challenge of, working through the ageist terms and other kind of barriers would be really exciting. So thank you for championing that work.
Great.
And herewith, I will quickly say goodbye, and I hope to see you at the next talk then.
Thank you, Marianne. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marianne.
I have just put some links in the chat to the Professor Judith Phillips. She is quite well known also for her involvement around work linking to British Society of Gerontology. She was at the last conference, I think, in Newcastle in July. She has written an interesting article about kind of the policy changes need for universities to be age-friendly. It might be worth connect with her. She's a lovely colleague as well as eminent professor, and also put the Age-Friendly University Global Network, which is between Dublin University, University of Strathclyde, which Marianne actually corrected me because for some reason I thought it was Stirling, and I think University of Texas. So I have emailed a colleague of mine. She will be able to probably connect me with the lead from the Strathclyde. So I will then be able to pass it on to you, Inma and Lesley, if you would like that connection, and we can pick it up next time on our next
lovely
seminars.
Scotland seems to be really interesting for some reason, because University of Glasgow are also really interested in this, and we're like actively looking at going ahead with them as participants. So yeah.
And I also want to say a huge thank you to you, Lesley, and to you, Inma. It's been such a pleasure to have you, and I'm really delighted that you could come and do the talk, because I believe it really yielded a very interesting and important discussion, a discussion that we need to continue. So I would just highlight that our next speaker just accepted. It's a Professor Martin Formosa. He's a professor in gerontology and dementia studies in Malta University. So we will have another speaker lining up, and our next seminar will be in early March, and we will let you know all about it.
Yitka. I just wanted to add that that's our next research seminar, which is going to be in March. Our next practitioner showcase will be in November. And we have colleagues from Canada joining us who are going to talk about how they are setting up educational programs for all the immigrants and what challenges they're facing. So it's going to, on behalf of the other side of the of the water body, we're going to bring some Canadians over to chat. So indeed, thank you all for joining, and thank you, Inma and Lesley, for sharing your research with us. And thank you for coming to our first ever research talk. We do hope that you liked it. And if you have any suggestions, ideas for topics, or if you want us, the chairs, to share things with the rest of the SIG membership on behalf of your projects, or you're looking for collaborations, you can email me, and I'm the one who is emailing once a month. So I'll do my best to include information about if there's an event that you would like to promote, if there is a chapter, a book, an article, a research project. So happy to share on your behalf with the membership. And if you have any feedback, let us know too. Because we're just starting, and it's exciting for us to get this regular meetings off the ground. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and I hope that you have a great day.